Hello and welcome to the Fighting Spirit Podcast. As always, I'm Jason, and I'm here to bring us the retrospective for Figueiredo versus Benavidez 2 and the fight picks for Till versus Whittaker. So we'll start with the retrospective here. It was a great night for Deiveson over Figueiredo. It was a heartbreaking loss for Joseph Benavidez. We had a good night overall. We came in at 75% accurate, so I was very happy about that one. Let's get into it, though. Here's the show. All right, let's talk about the main event here. So, in our last episode, I had mentioned, the only trophy that Benavidez would ever win was his wife, Megan O'Leary. And I meant that at the time. I was kind of being a little tongue-in-cheek about it. But then I saw some of the horrible things people said to Megan O'Leary after she said she still loves her husband and he's the top guy for her and all that kind of stuff. And it just made me feel genuinely bad for the whole way things played out. Benavidez, for what it's worth, he's 0-5 in title fights, and he'll probably never be champion at this point, which is heartbreaking in terms of a career. These guys fight to be champion, they fight to be the best, to get the biggest paydays, and now Benavidez is on a long list that includes guys like Chael Sonnen, having, never achieved gold, but that doesn't make you a bad fighter. That still takes my hat off to you, sir. You've had an outstanding career, and if this is where you walk away, then this is where you walk away, and I'm totally okay with it. I was more than happy to watch your fights. Speaking of Figueiredo, though, even though, as the way combat sports goes, or any sports in general, we have a winner, we have a loser. So we also have to talk about the triumph of Deiveson Figueiredo, a guy that went out, didn't make weight in their first contest, and came back and proved that he should be the 125-pound champion by making weight, by being eligible for the title, and putting it on Benavidez very hard, very early. Now, those shots, I don't know if they would have knocked down, Benavidez in their first contest. It seemed like, and I'm kind of quoting Josh Thompson and Big John McCarthy on this one, who were talking about it on their MMA show, and they said that after you get knocked out, it's probably too early to come back after that shorter span of time, and that's why we saw him taking really, really hard impacts off those punches that wouldn't probably have normally put him down. So unfortunately, Benavidez turns around, probably comes back a little too quick, and isn't able to fight to his full expectation, I'm sure. And Figueiredo capitalizes on that and picks up a great victory. After the knockdowns, he ends up taking the back, and he nearly ends it about 2 to 3 minutes before the fight actually ended, with Figueiredo nearly having the back in that circumstance, but ends up finishing out a rear naked choke and picking up a great win. So hats off to Deiveson Figueiredo. It'll be interesting to see what stands for him at 125 pounds. There's talk of Cody Garbrandt dropping down to 125. I'm sure the rest of the flyweight roster does not want to see that, but there is decent competition down there for Figueiredo, but I can also see him being champion for quite some time. So hats off to you, sir. It was a great fight, and we did call this one correctly. All right, so I have to confess, I did not watch this card. We had a little party at the house, and so I wasn't able to watch it, and so I didn't see any of the following fights that I'm about to talk about. The Figueiredo fight, I did actually watch. It was, fairly short and exciting. I did not get a chance to see the other one, so I'm really just quoting off of the stats here, just so you guys know. So Hermansson defeats Gastelum. I did actually see the highlight to that one, where Hermansson locks in the heel hook. Kind of sucks there for Gastelum. It was a very short fight, a minute 18. Basically, Hermansson gets a hold of that leg, taps Gastelum, and that's all she wrote. Gastelum doesn't get down any strikes at all. He does initiate the takedown, but otherwise it's a quick one and done, 1 minute and done, if you will, for Hermansson and Gastelum, one that we did get correctly. The one that I did not get correct, that was a firefight. I saw some highlight reels of the Matrix with Rafael Fiziev defeating Mark Jacasey. I thought Jacasey was really going to win this one. He looked really good coming in, but Fiziev showed off his stellar kickboxing technique, stellar Muay Thai, if you will, and he looked phenomenal. He was bending backwards out of kicks that should have landed otherwise, and this guy looks like the real deal after taking on such a hard-nosed competitor in Jacasey. So I'm hoping to see more out of Fiziev in the future, and that is one we called incorrect. And another one we called incorrect, and I got to apologize, I called her a looker, not a fighter. Ariane Lipski catches Carolina in a nasty knee bar. She bends that knee in the opposite direction, and Carolina ends up having to be carried out of the ring. She's not able to walk out under her own power, so she did cripple her a bit there, and the Queen of Violence proves that her fight name is correct by picking up an astonishing victory and only about 90 seconds into the fight. So I got to eat my words on that one for sure, and we get that one wrong. We got a few more right here, though, to make up for it. Askar Askarov defeats Alexandre Pantoja. I like Pantoja a lot of times, but we were calling Askarov in this one, and he picks up a phenomenal win for us. In the next one, we have a debut fight that we did get correct. We got all three debuters correct. Doladiz defeats Imerbrigimov in their light heavyweight matchup with a KO kick in the first round. And another one we called correctly, this catchweight fight, Grant Dawson defeats Nad Narimani. Excellent call for us. And then, sadly, Joe Duffy is defeated by Joel Alvarez. Now, I say sadly because Duffy did end up retiring after this loss. You know, he was once the guy that did beat Conor McGregor, kind of had that on his resume. He used it to his advantage, I think, to get into the UFC and pick up some decent fights, but was never able to fight to that full level and kind of prove that maybe him beating Conor was a bit of a fluke, and so he ends up going out with an L. But I was happy to see you fight while you did, Joe, and you did have a decent career, and you can always say you did beat Conor that one time, which is definitely worth something in the pantheon of MMA. Moving on to the next one, Brett Johns defeats Montel Jackson. In this one, I really thought Jackson was going to win, but 8 takedowns for Johns. I mean, that was spectacular. That exceeded my expectations, and I thought Montel Jackson's takedown defense was going to be a little bit better, let me tell you. 8 takedowns over 15 minutes is a super high takedown rate, and we end up getting that one incorrect. The rest of them on the night were, correct though. Amir Albazi defeats Malcolm Gordon, a win in our column. Armin Saryukin defeats Davi Hamos. He outstrikes him about 3-1 and scores 1 takedown. So they really didn't play the ground game like I thought. They mostly had a stand-up affair where Armin was able to handily defeat Hamos. And then in the last contest, majority decision, but a win nevertheless, Sergey Spivak defeats Carlos Felipe, and another one that we get correct. So overall, we went to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 3 on the night for 75% accuracy. A solid turnout for us. I'm proud of that one for sure. Let's go ahead, though, and look forward to our next event here. We're going to have Darren Till taking on Bobby Knuckles himself in what will close things out here, I believe, in Abu Dhabi, although all the venues are honestly kind of up in the air at this point. But we'll have Bobby Knuckles taking on Darren Till on an amazing card. We got 15 fights deep. This is one of the longest cards I think we've ever seen in the UFC. So let's get into those. It's going to take a little bit of time. Here's that part of the show. All right, in our main event, we're going to have, of course, Bobby Knuckles, the Reaper, Robert Whittaker himself taking on Darren the Gorilla Till from Liverpool. And this is going to be a phenomenal contest at middleweight for what should be the number one contender once the whole Paulo Costa Israel Adesanya thing kind of shakes itself out. Now, for these guys, they're fairly evenly matched here, but I am going to go ahead and give the edge to Till. So, as an all-around fighter, I think we can say maybe Whittaker has it just a little bit more because I think his takedown game is a little bit better, his takedown defense is a little better. I think on the ground, Whittaker actually does hold a slight edge here. He's able to, prevent it. He's able to stave it off. He's not necessarily able to put it on, but he's able to prevent it. And now, under normal circumstances, as a well-rounded mixed martial artist, I think that Whittaker would be able to defeat a lot of guys. I mean, rely on that. But Till is basically a master of stand-up. He's good at not being taken down. So I honestly see this thing staying on the feet, and that's where I think Till has the advantage. I like Till's boxing, his Muay Thai a little bit more. I think that he's going to be able to deal with Whittaker very, very well. He moves nicely. He's in and out of the pocket. And unfortunately, even though I really like Bobby Knuckles here, I'm going to go with the Scouser, Darren Till. He is going to be the pick. I think his frame is going to match up well against Whittaker. He has a little bit of a reach advantage. He's also a southpaw going up against Whittaker, who I think will have a little bit of trouble with that. We'll see how things play out, though. I am going to go with the Gorilla Down until in this contest. All right, our co-main is going to have two legends. We're going to have Mauricio Shogun Rua taking on Rogério Minotauro Nogueira in what will be a kind of pride flashback, if you will. So two legends. These guys are definitely up there in age. Rua is almost 40. Rogério is over 40. I think he's like 44. Yeah, 44 at this point. And in this one, honestly, I think it could go either way. Both of these guys have amazing victories over their careers, but I am going to go with the superior striker in this one. I am going to go with Rua. I think Rua is the better fighter throughout his career. His striking has been phenomenal, and I think he's going to be able to hang with Nogueira, who I think his boxing has lost a little bit of a step since, his last, we'll call it heyday. He did take a loss to Superman Span not too long ago, and we had a draw with Craig for Rua, but I like Rua in this one. I don't see this one going to the ground. I can see a lot of clinch work, though, and that's probably going to be initiated by Minotauro, who I believe will be getting boxed up on the feet and have to, basically do a clinch and pray, if you will, to keep Rua off of him. Either way, though, we're going with Rua. He's the pick in this battle of legends. All right, in his heavyweight debut, we're going to have Alexander Gustafsson taking on Fabricio Verdum, the former, or one of the former, UFC heavyweight champions of the world. And in this one, I like Gustafsson here a little bit more. Now, Verdum, I think he's still an effective fighter, but I think he's lost a little bit since his, kind of last outing. He's coming off 2 straight losses, lost to Volkov, lost to Oleinik. Now, it's not to say, we haven't had losses for Gustafsson either. Lost to Jones, lost to Smith. But Jones, come on, greatest of all time, he's the GOAT. Anthony Smith was on a run at that point. He ended up fighting Jones, and so I think that Gustafsson loses to those top-tier guys. Here's the problem. Verdum's not a top-tier guy anymore. He's not the cream of the crop. Yes, he was once champion, but he's older, okay? This guy is 43 years old. I think that he's just been in the game too long, and I think Gustafsson, who is just as actually taller than him with more reach, is going to be able to put it on Verdum very handily. I think that Gustafsson gets it done here. We've seen the Mauler have phenomenal boxing, kickboxing. His takedown game is there, although Verdum is still very deadly on the mat, so I don't know if that'll be executed. But honestly, I see Verdum being outpointed here, outstruck, and defeated handily by Gustafsson, who's going to try to make a run here at heavyweight. As long as he has the mental wherewithal to stay in the fight, which I think at times has been questioned for Gustafsson because he's had some kind of difficult losses as of late. But I think on the numbers, on the skill set, as long as he's mentally there, Alexander the Mauler picks up a W. So we are going with Gustafsson in this heavyweight matchup. All right, the next one here at Ladies Strawweight, we're going to have Mariana Rodriguez taking on Carla Esparza, and this one is kind of tough. So I'm going to go with Rodriguez in this one. She does look very good. Her striking is definitely much higher level than Esparza's, and she does have at least okay takedown defense. So I got to go with her here. I think Mariana is the better pick. However, Esparza has been on a great run lately. We've seen her executing great takedowns. 3-fight win streak, Janaroba, Grasso, and a big win over Watterson, at least, on the scope of MMA and what fans are tuning into. And then, we obviously have, Mariana, who's not quite on the radar yet, I think, of a lot of, casual fans. And I think this is a way for her to do that, to beat a fighter that was champion 115 pounds. And Carla Esparza, I think, can make a name for Rodriguez here, who does have solid wins over Aguiar and Torres, although a draw in her last outing with Cynthia Calvillo. I think Mariana is going to be able to use that size advantage. I think she's going to be able to use the reach advantage and outstrike her. And as long as her sprawl is there, she's going to be able to keep Esparza from keep Esparza from getting takedowns and put the stoppage there where I think she can outwork her on the feet very handily. As long as the takedowns are prevented, which with her takedown defense at 70% says that it could be, especially when you're going up against somebody like Torres and shutting them down. I think she can do it to Esparza. It is possible. It is the pick. I am going Mariana Rodriguez in this contest. All right, our next contest is going to be at light heavyweight, where the Bear Jew Paul Craig will be taking on Gazmarad Antikalov. And in this one here, I got to go with Antikalov. He is an American top team product, and I think he's basically only struggled, honestly, with top-tier strikers. His recent losses have been to Olenstruck and Kudalaba, and, okay, maybe Olenstruck's not exactly your top-tier striker, but I think that he's going to be fine here. The guy's takedown rate is huge, and honestly, I think the only real threat out of Craig here is going to be a submission threat. And Tikalov is a great wrestler, a phenomenal grappler. I think he even has a great submission set of his own, which can nullify Craig. And unless Craig's boxing has significantly improved, I do not see him picking up a win here. I think, honestly, the Bearju, for as good as he is going to run into this Russian monster in Antikalov, who's getting phenomenal training over an American top team, and that takedown rate is way too hard to ignore, and the takedown defense, we know, is not that great out of Craig at 57% defense. So I am going to go with Antikalov in this one. He is the pick in this light heavyweight matchup. All right, we're going to have one here at welterweight, where Alex Oliveira, the Cowboy, is going to be taking on Peter Sabota. And in this one here, I gotta go with Oliveira. I think Oliveira is a very, very tough customer. He is a guy that definitely brings the violence, and I believe that he's going to be too much for Sabota to handle. I think that Oliveira's striking, his grappling, he's a great all-arounder. He does, however, tend to put his foot on the gas a little too much, and he can get a little wild in there, which if Sabota is patient, he could capitalize on. But it's going to be difficult to stop the swelling storm that's going to erupt as soon as they enter the octagon, because I think Oliveira is able to shut the door early on Sabota, who is coming off of a loss in his last outing, whereas, we've seen Oliveira kind of go on and off with a win over Griffin in his last outing, but 3 losses before that. I am sticking, though. I think the streak continues for both guys. Wins for Oliveira, loss for Sabota. We're going with Alex the Cowboy Oliveira in this contest. All right, getting right back to his winning ways, I think we're going to have Kazmat Chimaev defeat Rise McKee. So Chimaev is looking like Khabib 2.0. He's a real smashing machine, and in his debut, Rise debut, I think that, actually, he goes by Skeletor. That's quite the fight name. I'm afraid, though, that Kazmat has the power, and he's going to be able to shut down Skeletor here, He-Man style. He's going to smash him. He's going to wreck him. He's going to give him the Khabib. We are picking Kazmat to pick up a win in this welterweight bout. All right, in our next contest here, we have Francisco Trinaldo taking on Yai Herbert in what should be an interesting contest at lightweight. So, speaking of vets that bring the pain, we talked about Oliveira earlier. We got to also talk about Trinaldo. The guy is at an advanced age. I believe he's 41 years old. He'll be 42 very shortly. And I think that he has a decent shot, but I got to go with Herbert in this one. He is making his debut, but I think he's looked good leading into the UFC, and I think he can pick up a victory. Although, just take it with a grain of salt. All of the debuters are still missing a little bit of information that I'd like to get closer to weigh-ins. So these are the best picks I can manage right now for the debuts, but they are potentially subject to change, and if they do change, I'll just make that clear on the next episode or on the Patreon fight picks, is where the official ones show up. So in this one, I am going with Herbert. Just know that it is subject to change. Same goes for the Kazmat fight, but I mean, hey, that guy's a real wrecking machine, so I don't expect things to go differently there as his last outing. Anyways, we are picking Herbert in this contest. All right, in the next one here, we have Nicholas Dalby taking on Jesse Ronson, the Body Snatcher. And in this one here, I like Dalby. Dalby has phenomenal striking, and he has very good takedowns, where I think it's going to be the undoing here for Ronson. Also, Ronson is on a 4-fight losing streak. Lee, Trinaldo, Paul Harris, and even though we've seen some losses out of, Nicholas Dalby, he is getting a win over Oliveira in his last outing. He did lose, though, to Sabota and Cummings back-to-back and took a draw to Darren Till. We'll see how things play out here, though. I honestly think that Dalby has the skills to pay the bills. He's got the reach advantage. He's got the slight frame size advantage, and I think he's going to look good here at welterweight. Also, another thing, Ronson, I believe, is coming up from 155 pounds. Yep, that would make sense. We're losing to Lee, losing to Trinaldo, so he's coming up in weight. It's unclear if the weight cut was the problem at this point, but we are going with Dalby in this contest. All right, another debuting match here. We have Tom Aspinall taking on Jake Collier, the Prototype. And in this one here, I gotta go with Aspinall. We've seen Collier in the UFC for a while. He's a real hit and miss guy. Win-loss, win-loss, win in his last outing, which means he's due for a loss. Now, we don't have a whole lot of information here about Aspinall, but he does look hot and heavy coming into the UFC. I think that he is going to potentially score a KO in this heavyweight matchup, and I think it's going to be hard for Collier to put up a sizable effort against the big man. So I am going with Tom Aspinall in this contest. All right, in our next one here, we have Mosfar Ivalov taking on Mike Grundy. Both these guys coming off of wins, Nadmari for Grundy and Enrique Barzola for Ivalov, but I think that Ivalov is going to pick up the win here. It's hard to overlook that takedown edge. Now, we've seen great takedown defense out of Grundy, but I don't think he has seen a guy like Mosfar yet in his career, and I think that Mosfar is going to put it on him, put him on the mat, and give him the old Russian beatdown, Kazmat, Khabib style. It's going to be Smash City, and I think Mosfar picks up a very, very solid win here. Let's not overlook the fact that I think Grundy does have some power, though. If he can keep Ivalov off of him, it is going to be a long night for Mosfar, but I do not see that playing out. I think Mosfar gets the win here. He's the pick. All right, and our next one is going to be a heavyweight matchup where we have the Shaved Bear MMA fighter, Tanner the Bulldozer Boser, taking on Rafael Pessoa. And in this one, how can you not love the Shaved Bear MMA product? He just looks phenomenal right now with a win in his last outing against Linz. He did take a loss to Cyril Gahn, but that guy's kind of a wrecking machine, and I think he'll piss right through Rafael Pessoa. No offense to Pessoa. As far as striking affairs goes, we got better output out of Boser, and I think we also have the better power out of Boser as well. Pessoa does have a 3-inch reach advantage, but I don't think he's going to be able to exploit it. I think Tanner is going to go through him like a hot knife through butter, like a wet paper bag, and I see Tanner Boser, the Bulldozer, picking up another great win, and he's going to call out another good name because this guy is making a name for himself in the UFC. We are going with Tanner Boser in this matchup. All right, we have a very long night in for us. We still got a few left here. We got Betch the Pitbull Correia taking on Panini Kinzad, and in this one, I do like Kinzad, or Kianzade. I'm not really sure how to pronounce her last name. Betch Correia is a great fighter. You know, her boxing is pretty solid, but I think that she's going to have a hard time with Kinzad. Both these fighters, though, have been hit and miss. We got a win against Sajara Eubanks for Betch Correia in her last outing, but I don't know if she's going to get a win here. I think that Kinzad's boxing is actually going to be just as good, honestly, as Correia's, and I think she has a slight edge, at least if this thing does go to the mat as well. Her takedowns are, not numerous, but if she does decide to score one, I think she could potentially pick it up and get, control of the contest over Correia. We'll see how things play out, though. This is not my most confident pick out there, which I hope is pretty clear, but I am taking Panini Kinzad in this contest. All right, 2 more to go here. Ramzan Emeev taking on Nicholas Stoles. In this one, I like Emeev. This is going to be a debut fight for Nicholas, so not a whole lot to go on here. I do like Emeev, what we've seen out of him so far. He did take a loss to Martin, but he had 3 straight wins going into that fight, and I think he's able to knock off another kind of lower tier competition before he's able to rise up and fight another great fighter. So I do like Emeev in this one. I think he picks up a solid victory. And then in the last one here, Nathaniel Wood taking on John Castaneda. And in this one, again, kind of similar story. We had Wood looking really good till he ran into Dodson, and we got a debuter here for Castaneda at bantamweight. So I think what's going to happen, Wood was running through guys like Quiones, Ul, Eduardo, and he'll be able to run right through Castaneda because the competition level isn't quite as high as it is like a guy in John Dodson. So I do like Nathaniel Wood in this one. I think he gets back to his winning ways. So let's go over them one more time. We have Till, Hua, Gustafsson, Rodriguez, Antikalov, Oliveira, Dalby, Ivalov, Boser, Kinazade, Chimaev, Herbert, Aspinall, Emeev, and Wood to round things out. So this has been a crazy time in Abu Dhabi. I'm happy that we do not have 2 fights this week. That was pretty hectic to keep up with the cards, but we did okay. We didn't do so well last Wednesday, but we certainly got back to our winning ways on Saturday. And as usual, I'm hoping to keep that streak alive. I'm hoping to stay above that 50% and creep into the 70s, 80s, and hell, I'd love to run the table still. But at 15 fights, that's a lot of contests, and so getting them all correct is certainly going to be difficult. But as always, I will do my best for you guys to bring you the best picks in the biz. If they are not the best picks, though, and you feel like you could do better, though, feel free to reach out to me. Send me your thoughts, send me your ideas, send me your concerns, send me anything you like. You can get in touch with me at MMA Fight Pick 01 on Twitter. There's the Facebook page. Feel free to leave a comment there. It's always the old email. Get in touch there, fightingspiritpodcast@gmail.com. So, yeah, this has been a great couple of weeks here. We've had a lot of title fights. We've had some really interesting contests, and it's been fun the whole way, if nothing else. So let's take a look at the upcoming here. There's only a few on the UFC website here. We got Holm versus Aldana. That's August 1st, so looks like we'll be taking a week. No, we will not be taking a week off because this fight will be Saturday. Yep, the 31st is next Friday. August is almost upon us. And then we'll have Miocic versus Cormier 3 on August 15th. Then that's it. There's nothing else listed here on the website. I'm sure that Dana and company are working on what they want to do. I'm sure they're working on venue. That seems to be still a problem, especially out in the western part of the United States where the coronavirus is still going fast and furious. So we'll see how things play out there. I'm hoping we keep the fights coming. You know, we got other sports talking about coming back. Baseball, I believe, is supposed to be back. The NBA is supposed to come back very soon. I think some of these things are in question and still up in the air, but I still like the prospects that they will take place, and I am looking forward to all of them. Honestly, it's been too long, not to have sports, to be perfectly honest. But the UFC has been keeping us going, and I've been happy that they've had the events and been doing it safely. They've been doing a very good job of it. So, anyways, I will speak with you again on the retrospective, and until then, happy fight picking.